Hi everyone, this is Arielle with my reaction video to Jen and Caitlin. So first of all, I wanted to say, ladies, thank you so much for posting your blogs. I really enjoyed them, and you both had some really great analyses, so thank you for that. I wanted to start with Jen, and first of all, I wanted to say, Jen, thank you so much for the production value of your video. I really enjoyed it a lot, and the fact that you made it like a newscast, I thought that was very cool, so kudos to you, because I'm certainly not that sophisticated. But I wanted to briefly talk about your involvement with Teen People. And I found that was actually pretty interesting, and I wanted to personally thank you for that. I bought these magazines, and I read them religiously. I thought they were just the greatest. I felt like they actually had real content that related to adolescence. So I think your note on how people were enthusiastic to tell their stories and share those things, I thought that was really cool, because I really felt like that was representative of me at the time. And I really enjoyed your screenshot of all the covers of Teen People. That really brought me back. I owned those. I read them. I enjoyed every single one of them. So thank you. I wanted to talk briefly about you mentioning agency. And like you mentioned, how girls were enthusiastic about telling their stories, and about how stereotyping can really strip individuals of their agency and can marginalize victims. So you said, I'm paraphrasing, I wrote this down very quickly, stripping them of their agency casts them as one-dimensional and can only be empathized by the white male-dominated narrative. I think that is certainly true. And you bring up the Elizabeth Smart example, and I find that to be a really culturally significant thing. I think you're right, there were a lot of other missing children at the time, but where were they? Where did we see them in the media? Elizabeth Smart came from a wealthy white family, so I think it's really why we saw her so much. And yeah, it was a horrific story, no doubt. But I think you're right, that really does have an effect, and I think some things obviously need to be changed there. That kind of brings me into the next point that I wanted to bring up about your blog, about the necessity of society to sensationalize these killers. Why do we want to do that? If you look in the recent past, there have been, name any shooting. This didn't necessarily begin in Mansonian times, and it certainly hasn't ended now. But if you look at say the Orlando shooting, or even the Sandy Hook shooting, the media really wants to sensationalize these killers. And I think that really goes back to the fact that we don't understand them necessarily. We don't know what makes them tick, and I think we want to understand what makes a person want to go there. As terrifying and as morbid as that is, I think it's really a fascination with wanting to understand the inner workings of these people and what went wrong. And I definitely think that applies in the Manson case. These girls, were from very normal families, so I think there's some fascination there. And certainly there's some fascination on Anna's end too, because she compares herself with these girls. Is she like the Manson girls? In some ways, yes. But at the end of the day, no, she's not going to kill anyone. She's not as malleable as that to go and actually harm anyone. So I think that was a really interesting point. So thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Caitlin, I wanted to comment on your video a little bit. You begin with the quote from Anna that her family is where optimism went to die. I think that's a pretty, wry and amusing observation on Anna's part, but also really significant. This is actually not the first time I've read this book. I read it several months ago. It was sitting on my desk in the dean's office, and I picked it up one day, and I read it cover to cover in no time at all. I was fascinated by it. And this particular quote was something that I kind of carried with me as I read it, because it's something that Anna carries with her. And I think it's something that Delia carries with her as well. And something that they both actually carry into their relationships. I think you're right. It creates a failure within her. And she sets herself up for that, I think. And she doesn't necessarily find a solution to that. But she learns how to work with it. And I think she conquers a lot of things, but I think that makes her feel like she's set back to begin with. I also wanted to kind of point out that Lynette is the one to talk to Anna about Cora's love for her, and the fact that she has this third party who has to address Cora's feelings towards Anna. I think that's really interesting, and it just makes me think that Cora has this really one-track mind. You know, she doesn't necessarily want to deal with Anna while she's handling her cancer treatment. She doesn't really want to deal with any of the normal things that a mother would typically have responsibility for in her children. She doesn't want to deal with that. So I really think she has this one-track mind, and I think that Anna kind of inherits that a little bit. Anna's capable of a lot. I think she's a really strong character, but I think she's self-possessed in a lot of ways, and I do think that she gets that from Cora a little bit. So anyway, those are my observations, and I want to thank you both for posting your great analyses, and I'll see you guys later.